The sun was setting on the small, peaceful town of Willow Creek. It had been a typical day, with the townspeople going about their business as usual. But as the night began to fall, a sense of unease settled over the town. In the center of town, the doors of the grand estate belonging to the wealthy businessman, Mr. Charles Fitzgerald, were thrown open, revealing a gruesome sight. The body of Mr. Fitzgerald lay in a pool of blood, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. The police were called immediately, and Detective Sarah Collins was on the scene in a matter of minutes. The investigation began, and it quickly became apparent that this was no ordinary murder. The house had been locked from the inside, and there were no signs of forced entry. The murder weapon, a bloody knife, was found near the body, but there were no fingerprints or DNA evidence to be found. The only clue was a single cryptic message scrawled on the wall in blood. The past always catches up with you. Detective Collins began to interview the people who had been in the house that day. Mr. Fitzgerald's wife, Mrs. Emily Fitzgerald, was the first to be questioned. She claimed to have been in the garden at the time of the murder and had not heard or seen anything suspicious. However, her nervous demeanor and evasive answers raised suspicions. The other people in the house that day were the Fitzgeralds' butler, Mr. Jameson, and their maid, Miss Jackson. Both claimed to have been working and did not notice anything out of the ordinary. As the investigation continued, Detective Collins began to uncover some disturbing secrets about Mr. Fitzgerald's past. It turned out that he had been involved in some shady business deals and had made a lot of enemies. There were rumors that he had double-crossed some dangerous people, and they had been looking for revenge. But as the detective delved deeper into the case, she realized that things were not as straightforward as they seemed. Each suspect had a motive for wanting Mr. Fitzgerald dead, and each had a plausible alibi. It seemed as though the killer was always one step ahead of the investigation. As the days passed, tensions in the town began to rise. The killer was still at large, and no one felt safe. Finally, after weeks of investigation, Detective Collins had a breakthrough. She discovered that Mr. Fitzgerald's wife had been having an affair with the butler, Mr. Jameson, and that they had conspired to kill Mr. Fitzgerald and inherit his fortune. With the evidence in hand, Detective Collins confronted the two lovers. In a dramatic scene, they confessed to the murder and were taken into custody. The town of Willow Creek breathed a sigh of relief as the killer was brought to justice. But the memory of the murder lingered, a grim reminder that even in the most peaceful of places, darkness can lurk just below the surface.